Alright guys, got another Armored Core build video. I'm very excited to bring you this one because I'm really happy with how it's turned out, both appearance-wise and gameplay-wise. I really like this build a lot. Now, the other day on one of my videos, I got a comment on someone saying they'd like to see what Nineball would look like if Nineball were in Armored Core 6. Now, I got pretty attached to the idea myself, so I set out to do just that. Make a Nineball if Nineball were actually in Armored Core 6. So I didn't try to recreate any specific version of Nineball or anything like that. I just tried to make what I thought Nineball would look like, right? If it were actually in this game. Now, for the frame's appearance, I mostly pulled from Armored Core 9breaker for two reasons, right? The first was just simply that it was the version I had the best reference images for. And the second reason is I really like how Nineball looks in 9breaker. Regardless of your opinions of the game itself, I know a lot of people don't really like 9breaker that much, but I really like how Nineball looks in that game. Now, for the weapons, I basically just looked at the whole part list of all the weapons Ninebreaker has ever, or Nineball has ever used, and sort of pick and chose what I wanted, and one small creative liberty. You've already seen it in the background footage. I'm talking about the Coral Sword, of course. I felt like it was fitting to give Nineball the new big, super heavy hitter Coral Sword, right? And also the Coral Generators, because they're red. It's the aesthetic, right? And I just felt it was fitting for Nineball, right? And yeah, I'm pretty happy overall. Like for the back weapons, I mostly took reference from the boss version of Armored Core Nexus. In that version, the Nineball boss has a 12 cell, I'm pretty sure it's a 12 cell vertical missile launcher and a grenade cannon. Of course, and it's not the only version he has a grenade cannon either, but mostly pulled from there. I actually don't remember which version he has a pulse gun in, but I did decide to use a or not pulse, but plasma rifle as well, right? And there you go. That's basically it. So now let's get real quick into the paint screen, and then I'll get into the parts. I'll talk about why I chose what I chose. So let's go ahead and get into it. And first off, a quick look at the paint screen. Now, of course, if you are on PC, there will be a PC share code, so you can just go import it directly. But if you're not on PC, basically can be summed up as the red materials are material 21, and everything else is material 27, right? And for the weapons, I use material 21. Well, now, one thing I want to mention really quickly before we move on, for the legs, I did use decals to paint over the bottom of the feet. Normally these bits right here should be red, but I've used decals to paint over them to make them black, right? So if you're not on PC and you can't use the share code, you'll have to do that yourself, unfortunately. It's not that big of a deal. It is a little annoying, and it takes a little bit of figuring out because it's a bit finicky, basically. You'll get it figured out, though. Don't worry about it. But that's going to be it for the paint screen. Let's go ahead and move on to the assembly. Now, for the weapons, I decided to mostly pull from Armored Core Nexus's boss version of Nineball for the weapons, of course. Now, for the right arm unit, I've chosen to go for the VVC 760 PR Plasma Rifle. Mostly just because I wanted to. I wanted to go for big, heavy hitters for the most part for this build, but there are actually quite a few options. I'm pretty sure there's at least one version where Nineball uses a chain/Gatling gun, so you could use the Gatling gun. Also uses machine guns, I know in a couple versions, I'm pretty sure. So you can use a machine gun, something like that. But I've chosen to go for the plasma rifle. As you know, it's basically an energy grenade launcher. And I've already got a grenade cannon. I feel like I just continue going for it. Now for the right on you, I've taken a bit of, I guess you could say creative liberty here and gone for the coral oscillator. This is basically a coral, like beam sword, laser sword. This is actually mostly because the original version, I'm pretty sure that the Nineball uses is actually a red laser sword, right? I'm pretty sure it's red if I remember correctly. And that's a big reason I chose to go for the Coral Oscillator. It also just kind of fits the theme right. It's red. And again, Armored Core 6 version. So I wanted to bring at least something that was completely new to Armored Core 6, right? So the Coral Oscillator was the obvious option here. Now, this hits really hard, of course. The charge version, or the charge attack, has a ton of range. It has like 250 meters of range. Be aware of that. It hits like a truck, too. Just so you know. That thing has an absolutely ridiculous amount of range on the charge version. Now, moving on to the back units. First, we've got the vertical missile launcher, the 12-cell vertical missile launcher. This is another pull straight from Armored Core Nexus version. Nothing special there. Again, I just wanted something big, right? And of course, for the final version, we've got the earshot grenade cannon, of course, right? I mean, quite a few versions use grenade cannons, so I decided to stick with that, right? And that's going to be pretty much it for the weapons. Now for the frame parts, I did again mostly pull from the 9-breaker version of Nineball. And starting with the head, I went for the VP44S, mostly because I really wanted to keep that nice, clean blue icelet look, right? And none of the other heads really give you that same clean, just uninterrupted, like very visible icelet. I considered either the Nocturne or the Cassowars, but just didn't seem to fit quite as well. I didn't like the icelet looks on those, so the VP44S was kind of the obvious option in the end. Now for the core, I actually had two main options I was considering. I did, of course, end up going for the Albas. I feel like the shoulders fit really well aesthetically, and the front's got that same sort of like aggressive look to it that I like a lot. And the other option I considered was the Orbiters. And the main reason I didn't go for this one, because it does sort of have that same sort of like gun looking bit sticking out, and one of the main reasons I was considering it, but it's just a bit too rounded for my taste. If it was a bit sharper, a bit more aggressive looking, I think I would have went for the Orbiter, but I ended up going for the Alba in the end. Felt like it matched more aesthetically, even if missing the little like gun bit sticking out, right? Now for the arms, the VP46D is the only option I considered because the shoulders match extremely well with the 9-breaker version of Nineball, of course, right? None of the other come were nowhere near as close, in my opinion, to matching the aesthetic. So this was the very obvious choice. Nothing else even considered. And for the legs, I went for the VP422s. These are just really nice, generic-looking bipedal legs, so they fit with a lot of things. But they just also happen to really fit the aesthetic well for 9-breaker. One thing to mention with these is that the color paletting is a little awkward because these bits, like on down here on the feet, would be red if I didn't color over them with decals. So again, if you're not on PC, you'll have to color those over yourself manually, right? But if you're on PC, you can just use my share code. And that's going to be it for the frame. Now getting into the internals, first for the boosters, I ended up opting for the gills. My main consideration when choosing boosters was I wanted something that's really nice and snappy for quick boost, right? So I just wanted to sort of replicate that feeling of an AI instantly dodging your attacks no matter what you do, right? So I wanted them really quick and snappy and fast. So obviously the only options were either the gills or the Alulas. Unfortunately for the Alulas, even though I much prefer them over the gills personally, the build's just too heavy for them, right? And you can see looking at the stats here, for the Alulas would be reload, quick boost reload speed goes all the way up to 0.46 from the base 0.35. That's a pretty big increase in delay time. So the gills were kind of the only option here. I considered the NGI 001 boosters, but even though they've got really big, like long quick boost, just too much of a delay between them, right? And it's also got nice melee thrust stats. Actually, the big thing I dislike the most about the gills is the melee thrust stats. They're not very good, but again, really wanted that quick and snappy movement, right? Now, getting into the FCS, I had two main options here that I considered. First is, of course, the FCS Talbot, which I chose in the end, and the WLT-001. You know, basically, I wanted good close range assist and good medium range assist and good missile lock stats, pretty much, right? Those are kind of the two decent options for that. I ended up opting for the Talbot because I feel like close range things are a bit more urgent in terms of timing wise, so I feel like I might miss that close range assist on the WLT-001. So I opted for the Talbot instead, right? And that's pretty much it for... Oh, I almost forgot the generator. Oh, so for the generator, we of course are using the big NGI 001 coral generator. I really wanted to use the coral generator anyways for the red thrusters, but honestly, there just aren't that many options that can support this build to begin with. You've got this option and like this option, but nothing particularly great that can actually support the amount of energy this build needs. So actually, this was kind of the obvious option regardless, to be frank. Now, again, the core generators are a bit weird and they take some getting used to, but again, really good energy generation along with a huge energy bar. You guys know I love having a big energy bar personally. You just have to get used to using the coral generator, right? And that's going to be it for the internals and it for the build. Again, of course, the expansion doesn't matter. Use whatever you want. I went for the assault armor. But that's it for the build. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you've got any recommendations for other builds to make or any changes I should make to this build or, you know, anything at all. Any kind of Armored Core video you want to see. I'll obviously take your comments into consideration. And yeah, for this video, if you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.